Welcome, everyone. Erik Roth here, your shamanic alchemical astrologer with episode 76 of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. Today, we're going to look at December 2025 and the astrological outlook and/or forecast, depending on which term you want to use. But this is a look at the entire month, 20 or December 2025. And one of the things we're going to just have a brief look at is because it's in a lot of people's minds, Comet 3i Atlas. That'll be some, kind of a special frame that we're going to look at. But there's a lot of things happening in this month. We've got Mars and Venus going to Capricorn. We have the solstice point. We've got a lot of inner planet squares to Saturn and Neptune. And we've got, of course, the new and full moons, and then Neptune stationing direct, along with the water trine continuing. So a lot of things taking place this month for the astrological happenings here. And this is just a quick look at the outer planets and their movement. You can see that they don't move very much. In fact, in the case of Neptune right here, it's from 2923 Pisces to 2930, because this is the month, December, when it stations direct. So it's only moving about 1/10 of a degree the entire month. Uranus is retrograding even deeper into Taurus, going back to 2756. I believe it goes direct in February of 2026. Jupiter, having retrograded in November, is retrograding about 3 degrees, all the way back to 2118 Cancer. Eris and Chiron don't really move very much in the month of December. It's because they're getting ready to station direct in early part of 2026. And then Pluto is moving almost a full degree direct in the month of December, all the way to 2 degrees, 43 minutes Aquarius. And this, it's going to be moving actually all the way to 5.5 degrees Aquarius in 2026. But that'll be a topic we're going to talk about more in the 2026 astrological forecast. All right, so just to kind of give people a greater understanding of that, I don't talk about comets too much because they're always coming and going, and their visibility is very unpredictable. But this is a kind of a special one because I've had a lot of clients and others ask me questions about this, or have I heard about this? Can you watch this video about this presenter and this astrologer and so forth? So I wanted just to share just a few things about Comet 3i Atlas. This is the third interstellar visitor that we've had in the solar system, at least that we've detected through our telescopes. And the 3i means third interstellar, and it's the telescopic device of the Atlas program that is detecting this. So it's currently in this month of December transiting through the Priestess and Lion constellations. So basically, Libra moving from it's moving backwards because it's precessing against the starry background, against the normal precession. So it's going in a way retrograding back from Libra back into Virgo, and eventually at the end of the month it'll connect with this, have a conjunction with the star Regulus. Not like where there's a visible conjunction or really really close. It's really really so far out there. It's over 270 million miles away, and it's pretty tiny relative to the planets and the asteroids. And its magnitude is plus 14 or to plus 15 during the month. So it's actually going to get dimmer over time. And eventually, I think it's supposed to leave our solar system. But this image here was taken of a comet last year, Comet Atlas Tau Chinchin. And I took this picture with my phone over Ashland, Oregon in October of 2024. It was visible for, I think, about a week or two in Ashland, maybe not, certainly not more than 2 weeks. And a lot of people in the Northern Hemisphere were able to see this after sunset. It was a highly visible comet, and really special. Anytime a comet comes in, especially, it's probably the second or third, I think the third comet that I've seen in the last few years. And not quite as bright as the ones that we had in the 90s. Comet Hale-Bopp, and there was another one that was within a year or so of that other one, and they're both of them were really bright. But this one, astrologically, it's comets are wild cards, and they can sometimes be looked at as omens, like in traditional astrology, and have represent changes in leadership in the world. Sometimes with nations, they have some providence over that in a way. But there's of course been other people that have been doing like psychic channeling and working on more esoteric level. They certainly look at this in some ways as this coming of this like signifier of new energy that's coming in, and some have looked at it as kind of an artificial object. Um, it's certainly acting very differently than other comets. I don't know one way or another if it really is, something artificial, but anything's possible. We don't have something sitting on the comet looking at it. We're only seeing it from a great distance, but it's a lot of behaviors have been more unique and rare. And so it's definitely continuing to study this comet. But we are in a major transition in humanity, and having a comet that's interstellar, and we're learning that we can now see and detect interstellar objects that come into the solar system. So that itself is really profound, just on its own, and we can learn a lot from these travelers that are coming in, these vagabonds, these gypsies from other solar systems that are coming in. I think it's awesome that we're getting to connect with these. So however you connect with it, meditate on it, look at it, get your downloads, if you will, from other sources. It's definitely worth watching, and be prepared, I think, for other interstellar objects that could be coming in the coming years, visiting the solar system. But I wish that it was close enough and bright enough that we could see with the naked eye. It would certainly be pretty even more magical than it is right now. But if you go to this website, theskylive.com, and click on their planetarium, you can look at the sky and do a search for Three Eye Atlas, and you could see where it's located. Because as comets do, a lot of them have very erratic elliptical orbits, and some, in this case, are from another solar system. So, but yeah, stay tuned for more. Maybe there's more activity with this comet in the future. There's some people that are saying there's a particular physicist that does channeling work of some kind of a wave that's coming in on December 4th. I don't know too much about that, but as far as like, on a consciousness level, something's coming through and helping humanity. So something to tune into. I don't know. Again, this is just something that I'm drawing in. I think his name is Dr. David Clements. So tune into that. You could do a Google search for that. He was on Pam Gregory's show the other day. All right, so let's look at what else is coming up. So the timing of this, I mentioned the December 4th. There's also the full moon in Gemini at 1303 Gemini, and this is actually hitting an axis, what some call the bending of the nodes. And so this is a really, really interesting full moon, and it's going to be very, very bright. It's going to be a super full moon, so it's not quite, just a slightly less bright as the November full moon, but it's still super bright. So if it's not cloudy on December 4th, and you really get into that, it's really, really profound. It'll still be very, very bright on December 3rd and December 5th. So it's this 3-day window shamanically where we're tuning into this. And you can see it here, the full moon and the bending of the nodes. And what that represents, or the meaning behind that, is it's right in the middle of, like, between the future and the past. So it's in this sort of in between space where it's kind of helping exercise the mind, with the Gemini mind, into this next level of itself, and trying to take in, what direction do we want to go? What do we want to bring in from the past to help us leap into the future, and having more, creative, imaginative ideas that come through rather than just business as usual kind of activity. And there's a Sabian symbol. Actually, Kaylin Castell and I did a whole full moon video that you can watch on my channel. You can also watch on her channel, Kaylin Castell, and also My Star Alchemy YouTube channel. So something you could tune into. There's plenty of other material that Kaylin and I work with, and more information to come about that down the road. But this will be at 3:13 p.m. Pacific time, this full moon. And the on the Sabian symbol though, it's at 14 Gemini, and the symbol of that is two people at widely different points are in conversation with each other by means of telepathy. So this has a lot to do with mental connections, but also not ignoring our physical connection with the earth. I talk about that in the video with Kaylin. And so not necessarily leaving or escaping our body, but you know, playing with the mind and its ability to maybe go beyond itself. So like that the whole telepathy thing is this like another level of consciousness and connections with others and how we might read or connect, with different sometimes physical cues or what we might see on a soul level, what's coming through there. So this is really, really profound. It's like a hyper air type of full moon. And I think it also represents and reflects our profound reliance on electronic communication. So, like, not to ignore the physical level communication, even though telepathy is a mind to mind, we are in biological beings. So, we're transmitting from that place to another place, if you will, and connecting with others from, like, hypothetically with telepathic communication here. So, this is a symbolic language. So, that's what we're connecting into. So, how we can connect on the same frequency with others? How can we reach across and have connections with others that are in harmony rather than from a place of like, pushing them away or blocking them in some fashion? Here's where the full moon will be. Here in the sacred hoop of stars. And this time of year, fall in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere is a powerful time to look at the sacred hoop of stars, called the sacred hoop by the Lakota tribe. So is where there's a lot of bright stars around that form this rough hoop-like shape, and the full moon is sitting near the center of that. The center is right. Let's see if this shows where that center is. I think it's right just at the bottom of the screen here, above the word December. That's where the center is, and that full moon is going to be super bright. And so when you're looking at that, you're going to be looking the moon transiting through this area into the center of the sacred hoop. And the center of that is where the summer solstice is, or the June solstice, where the sun would be at the time where we have the maximum light in the northern hemisphere and the minimal light in the southern hemisphere there. So on December 10th, Neptune stations direct at 2922 Pisces. It moved into Pisces in October and will leave Pisces for the last time in January. I think it's January 26th of 2026. So this is this last go around of Neptune's loop through Pisces, and it's strongly associated with Saturn because Saturn and Neptune have been really, really strongly connected. We're still in the conjunction period that started in 2025 and a little bit in 2024. We got some sort of pre-echoes to that experience of what we're moving into as far as humanity goes, the next level of ourselves. And 2026 is going to be loaded with a lot of change, including this Saturn, particularly the Saturn Neptune conjunction. The what we call the calm before the next big storm, and the changes that the Saturn Neptune conjunction will likely bring in the first few months. Continue to follow this. Like this, I feel like is in a way we could even think of it as a revolution. Certainly like a potentially when both of these planets move into Aries, I think that there's going to be a greater focus on what we really want, and we're going to get some additional clarity about that. The formlessness moving into form. I do a whole video about Saturn and Neptune. In fact, I probably will do kind of an update on that prior to the exact conjunction that happens on February 20th of 2026. Mercury will be moving back into Sagittarius on December 11th. We're still like as of this recording, we're just a couple days away from Mercury stationing direct. But after it goes direct, then it's going to slowly start off slow, making its way through the end of Scorpio and then back into Sagittarius. And that'll go on through January 1st. Mercury it's been doing this. It's been one of the players of the Grand Water Trine that has been happening. So there's been a strong influence of that in the month of November with the Grand Water Trine and also in December. So December 6th and 7th, it'll be in the trines with Jupiter and Saturn. And then we'll also trine Neptune on the 10th and then have a sextile with Pluto on the 13th. So it really has a lot of outer planet aspects. But at the same time, on the 10th that it trines Neptune, it's also going to be into opposition with Uranus. So these outer planets I talked about at the very beginning here of this video are going to be really, really active, I feel, because of Mercury and Mars and Venus and the Sun doing what they're doing this month. So the Sagittarius, this Mercury back in Sagittarius, it's about activating that intuitive, fiery, free-flowing, optimistic, philosophical mind. It's not about commitment, except its pursuit to truth and meaning. And it tends to show up in a way that helps us have hope and be the torchbearer of being the sort of this herald of new trails and new paths and kind of blazing forward and being bold in the world. That's what Sagittarius is about, and having Mercury back in that sign is going to help kind of stimulate that more. Mars is in Sagittarius for the first half of the month of December. The sun is all the way until the 21st of December. So we definitely have some, and also Venus through the 24th of December will all be in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius really dominates this month of December. And then we start to really mix it in with the sign of Capricorn as well. So you can see here Mars and Capricorn. And this is a really interesting one. This is part of because in December 8th, there'll be a Saturn Mars square at 2515 Sag/Pisces and a Mars square to Neptune at 2922. So just after Neptune goes direct, Mars will square it 4 days later. And then 2 days before, or 2 days before Neptune goes direct, Mars will square Saturn at 2515. So Mars, Saturn, Neptune are having this little dance together for about a week. And especially the Mars Saturn squares, they tend to be like even the Mars Pluto squares or Pluto Saturn squares. These can be really, really powerful. So this beginning period, early to mid December, and especially that December 8th, Mars Saturn square or the day before, the day after, look for some interesting events, some powerful, potent energy releases that are happening in the world. I think that there could be something really powerful. Like it's kind of, I look at this as sort of this battle between, action and activity and getting things done and taking like, and almost like this reckless initiator of Mars. And then you have this, or what Saturn might perceive as reckless. And you have Saturn wanting to kind of control and contain things and try to, make sure we follow the process along. So there's going to be this potential, especially as Mars is in Sagittarius during that before it reaches Capricorn, a little bit of like this rebellious energy that is coming forth in that square. So something to stay tuned. But when Mars goes into Capricorn, it can actually be, in traditional astrology, can be exalted. But in shamanic astrology, Mars in every sign has its own role. It has its own light and shadow. So there can be like an expression of this that is much more like Mars and Capricorn, much more on making deliberate intentions, having more thought, going through the process, long-term and sustainable actions and decisions. Um, and but here's the sort of the caveat to this is that Mars is in the underworld right now, just like Venus is, meaning it's too close to the glare of the sun, too close to the sun to be seen by the naked eye. So whenever they're in the underworld, there can be a lot of like secrets and things that are hidden from our eyes. In this case of Sagittarius and Capricorn, knowledge and wisdom that is hidden away, that is maybe being stirred up and maybe eventually being revealed during this time. So things that are sort of in the mysterious world, but there's also this death rebirth happening too within the masculine energy happening. This is the phase. Three of the Mars cycle. So we want to take care that there's a lot of potent reactive energy with Mars in the underworld right now, even though it's trying to, when it goes into Capricorn, follow process to go through what it needs to go through. This is a really, really strong energy that's happening, and especially with all these squares that are happening with Saturn and Neptune. Yeah, it's not an ideal month, but it also will perhaps help us turn a corner a little bit and help us prepare for that Saturn Neptune conjunction that will take place in February. So then, after the Saturn and Neptune squares to Mars, we have the Sun squaring Saturn Neptune. The Sun squares it on the 16th. The Sun squares Saturn on the 16th. Sun squares Neptune on the 20th. And yeah, I've got both charts showing right here. And in this space, Venus is involved in both of these. So we're seeing like this additional, and I'm going to talk about Venus in a little while, but Venus also squares the Saturn and Neptune. Not they're not too much different. I think it's the 18th and then the 24th, or the 20th and the 24th. I'll look at the exact ones as we get into that. So the 20th for Venus to Saturn, and then the 24th for Venus squaring Neptune. So they emphasize this ongoing conjunction period of Saturn Neptune and this sort of this evolution of humanity, when it comes to this, like, how do we alchemize form and formlessness? How do we alchemize spirit into matter? How do we bring in that sense of greater hope into the world, and that sort of that spark of dreaming the dream, but dreaming it into a way that's practical and purposeful, and rather than just out in the cosmos and not manifesting at all. So there's a lot of questions or inquiries about spirituality, about where our consciousness is evolving to, and our heart as well. All right, so then we get into the new moon, and that's at 2824 Sagittarius. And this is like, because we were having a series of six new moons in a row. I was talking with my astrologer friend Greg Nell about this. We have six new moons in a row, and they are activating all of these outer planets that are in the last couple of degrees and or beginning of the next sign. They're activating all of that. So we're really, like, the emphasis is on these larger patterns that are happening. And so these new moons at each stage is going to be in a different sign, each new moon. I think the last new moon at 20 degrees is in March, if I'm not mistaken, March 2026. So this is a new moon that's all about, much more about the spark of hope. Sagittarius getting out there in the world, like sparking our vision. What do we want to see? What frontiers do we want to explore in our lives? This new moon is going to be squaring Saturn and Neptune. It's also going to be trining Chiron and Eris, and then it's at a quincunx to Uranus as well. So you're getting a lot of outer planet activations with this new moon here in Sagittarius. And the Sabian symbol of this, oh wait, just to come, the new moon first is at 5:43 p.m. Pacific on December 19th. So you can mark your calendars for that, and that's information that's easy to find online and on apps. Okay, so this is I haven't explored this particular Sabian symbol before, but this symbol of the new moon is a woman reading tea leaves. And it just so happens in not far from where I live, I sometimes do astrology readings at the Tea Leaves and Tarot Parlor in Phoenix, Oregon. And this is in the Southern Oregon area. So I just found it interesting. So you can see the sign there of the actual business that I sometimes go to and do that. There's going to be doing a solstice event, solstice party on the 20th of December. But this symbolism is about kind of accessing and looking at other modalities that are ancient or knowledge and wisdom that we could connect into. So reading tea leaves is an actual practice, and people can do it. They do it at this particular place as well, which they also sell custom blends of teas in addition to that, that are tuned into different kind of magical properties of the herbs. Um, so we ourselves are more than just the mind as a computer or the physical molecules and the cells in our bodies. There lies something beyond that we can't truly quantify or that can be quantified. And so the tea leaves and other modalities that access even astrology to some extent accesses other kinds of knowledge that can't necessarily be tested in a laboratory. We can get general insights with archetypal expressions, in astrology and tarot and human design, for example. But other things like with psychic energy and channeling and other modalities that we try to connect with on a divine level, getting that knowledge. This is a whole new frontier, repurposed, if you will, in this modern time. And, this is we're having a revolution around this. So at this new moon is a great time to connect into other modalities, a great time to connect and maybe pull tarot card, maybe look at your chart, maybe have an astrologer do a reading for you or a tarot practitioner, and so forth. This is the time to kind of connect, and maybe even if you wanted to find someone to do an actual tea leaf reading. So those can be, really interesting and may give you some additional perspective in your ongoing life decisions. All right, so here's that was the water grand trine. I wanted to bring this in for the last time. There's going to be another grand trine on December 6th and 7th involving Mercury, but this was the last one that happened with the Sun, with Jupiter and Saturn here back on November 16th, 17th. So the last one we're going to have is December 6th and 7th. And instead of the Sun, it's going to be Mercury act in the placement of the Sun there. So there's a lot of watery activity happening because of this grand trine. And so when it comes to the emotions, when it comes to the flow of our feelings, this is definitely a time to really connect into those feelings. So alongside these other astrological expressions. So the Sun in Capricorn begins December 21st. That will go on until January 19th. And this is a graphic here that shows that when the Sun is at solstice, it's either the southern hemisphere that is pointed toward the Sun, such as at the sun when we reach the December solstice, or the northern hemisphere that's pointed toward the Sun at the June solstice. So it depends on where this Earth is in its orbit. So the solstice happens at 7:03 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on December 21st. And this graphic comes from timeanddate.com. So that's a website I talk about from now and again, and I use as a resource. They've got a lot of great, good information about time and seasonal points and eclipses and other things that astronomically related, along with just kind of keeping track of time and like how many days between dates, like how many days if you wanted to count the Mercury retrograde cycle, you can go there and they have a little day calculator that kind of determines that for you. So this is something that is like astrologically, I look at the sun in Capricorn or the solstice, December solstice, as the true new year. But there are people that celebrate the new year in ancient times, and even today, they might celebrate it ceremonially, like at one of the equinox points or the cross quarter points or the other solstice. So it depends on how one kind of perceives that. But I feel like it's more natural for the sun in Capricorn because it's like the rebirth of the light. So we're moving in from the time of the dark to the time of the light. And that just feels more in line with that for me. And the solstice is also a day that had tremendous influence in Christianity and the birthday of Christ, along with other religions and mythological beliefs. That whole uh, astronomical cycle that happens each and every year of the when we move from the time of the dark to the time of the light, to the time of the dark to the time of the light, and so forth. That also plays really, really strong roles. So the sun in Capricorn is the winter solstice point here in the northern hemisphere, summer in the southern hemisphere, and it's the seed for the solar year. So Capricorn symbolizes what the seed of all that was experienced before to be renewed for the new year. And Capricorn is a teacher, builder, and wisdom carrier, the archetypal expression that is concerned with the practical, constructive, and system structures that can be sustained for future generations. So, on its basic level, Capricorn is really a good time if you want to set an intention and maybe make a vision board that has a lot of practical things that you need to or want to accomplish or want to put forth out there. Maybe it has to do with earning money. Maybe it has to do with, creating a family, maybe some spiritual goals for yourself, but also like, in your home and work and your calling in life. You can throw all that in there on the altar and create your next phase of life there. So Venus and Capricorn, very similar. Just 3 days after the sun moves into Capricorn, Venus is following the sun. Venus is also in the underworld, so it's transitioning from the morning sky to the evening sky by the time we get into February, and that's a whole different topic. I'll talk about that later. But I wanted to talk about the Venus squares to Saturn on December 20th, so the day before the solstice, and a Venus square to Neptune on the same day, just before Venus moves into Capricorn at 29:25 of Sagittarius and 20:25 of Pisces for Neptune. So in January, Venus will square Chiron and Eris as well. So Venus is going to be doing a lot of activities with the outer planets during this time. What Venus brings in is a little bit more of a softer touch to Capricorn, more receptive and diplomatic and relational to what Capricorn is all about. So with the feminine principle, this unites Capricorn with to be more thoughtful and heartfelt in its approach. It considers the needs of others and the aesthetics of what needs to be done. And this energy also increases a sense of responsibilities and accountability to our actions and decisions. So I suspect whereas we're getting like Mars, then the Sun, then Venus, and then on January 1st, Mercury moves into Capricorn. I suspect that there's going to be a lot of pressure for people that haven't been accountable to, the pressure to be accountable for their actions. So it doesn't mean that it's actually going to take place, that everything's going to be just fine in the sense of like people show up and take responsibility for their mistakes or their actions or whatever it might be, but their pressure will be on for that sort of that atmosphere to come through for humanity there. All right. So lastly, the chronology of the month here. This is something I'll post separately a few times in the month of December so people can tune into this, but you can see these groupings like here's the super full moon in Gemini in the fourth. There's the first water grand trine. There's another part to the grand trine with the 11th as Mercury enters Sagittarius during that time. And then you can see Neptune stationing direct the 10th and 11th. But so it's more of a scattered. It's not as like November was chock full of much more than this one. But you can see the 19th through the 21st is a strong active time, and this the 4th through the 11th is also a very strong active time with a couple of things like on the 14th and the 16th, big time. So, and then it ends the month with Mercury squaring Saturn on the 29th. And that's no Saturn station direct. That's not as a that's actually a leftover from the last frame that I did. So Saturn station direct actually on the November 27th, not December 27th. So I'll have that corrected by the time I post this page here. So I wanted to share that with you there, and I want to thank you all for watching this video. On you made it to the end, and please like and subscribe if this is something that you want to share with others. Feel free to do so. It's free to subscribe to my channel because you get a lot of great information here. I'm in the process of moving, and I'll be kind of resetting a lot of things that I'm doing also with my practice as far as like video making. And I'm still in the preparation. I'm writing up a whole new online course. So I've got maybe 50% of that completed. And as far as like the study guide goes, and then I'm going to reformatting some of the videos around that. So we're going to be for a really, really basic level. And then from there, I'll create other different kinds of courses, some really, really short, others more advanced and more in depth. So stay tuned for that in the coming for 2026. And I look forward to seeing you next time. All right, take care, everyone. Happy night sky watching.